Hey, good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday night, April the 10th. Finally getting some warm weather here in my part of the U.S., the United States of America. What a big shout out to everyone in the live chat. Thank you, everyone, for coming by, hanging out with us this evening. Really appreciate the support, as always. Also want to give a big thank you, by the way. Channel seeing a lot of growth, a lot of views, new members, or new subscribers, I should say. And just really appreciate the support as always. Look, if you are looking for a level-headed video gaming podcast, if you're looking for a podcast that tends to focus more on taking data points, discussing those data points, those trends that are based on tangible evidence, that are based on data, you've come to the right place. We often provide analysis on those types of things. And, we also discuss video gaming news, and we'll also give you our opinion on some news. And on occasion, we'll call out or discuss some of the misinformation, disinformation that's out there. But if you're looking for just something that isn't platform-centric, that's really about the love of video games, you've certainly come to the right place. So thank you. I really appreciate the support. Do me a favor, hit that like button if you haven't done so already. I'm going to drop a link here in the live chat. Please do me a favor, retweet the link or share the link on your favorite social media platform. Let everyone know that we're live. And, the other panel members will be joining us here shortly. And sorry I'm late, by the way. I was watching AEW Dynamite. For those who don't know, I'm actually a pretty big professional wrestling fan. And watched WrestleMania this weekend, which was great. WrestleMania was fantastic. Great. Actually, I think I enjoyed the second night of WrestleMania more so than the first night. But hey, what a great WrestleMania. The WWE is firing on all cylinders right now. They have great storytelling. That storytelling that they set the groundwork for The Rock, Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. That's going to happen. The Rock Monday Night Raw yesterday came back, or not yesterday, 2 days ago, came back and said, "Hey, I got to leave, but when I come back, I'll be coming back for you, Cody." And that's the thing. Like we all know, like wrestling is like the outcomes are predetermined. Like we the cat's out of the bag. They broke kayfabe years ago. We know that. The thing that keeps people coming back is great storytelling. Great storytelling. And they have been firing on all cylinders at WWE with their storytelling. The way they laid the groundwork for the bloodline, for Cody and Roman, for Cody to finish his story, for The Rock coming back. The Rock, if you watch Monday Night Raw, The Rock gave Cody something. We don't know what it is. That sense of mystery. What did The Rock give Cody? Why did The Rock say to Cody, "Don't break my heart again. Don't ever break my heart again"? What is it that he gave Cody Rhodes in his hand? We don't know. And that's the storytelling. So they've done a great job with storytelling. I think this is the best WWE has been in a very long time, in my opinion. And they have a lot of talent. They are stacked. That roster's stacked. But so as I mentioned, I was late because I was watching AEW Dynamite. And so if you follow professional wrestling, you would be aware of the whole CM Punk incident at AEW's All In event at Wembley Stadium. 30 PS Gamer Review says it is the best, but it is still not better than AEW. So, look, I certainly appreciate that perspective. PC Gamer Reviews. I do think, though, while I give a slight edge in terms of just wrestling to AEW, the storytelling is just better in WWE. Like it keeps people captivated, and I think that's the one deficiency the AEW I think has right now, in my opinion. That's the one thing. And look, it's you look at the ratings. The ratings are down for AEW. They're having trouble selling tickets. And those, and we just know that based on, information that's out there with ticket sales numbers and stuff like that, having trouble filling arenas. I mean, I think you gotta get people to want to watch the product. I think there's a hardcore group that wants to watch good wrestling, maybe doesn't care so much about the stories, but a lot of people want to care about, they care about the story, the theatrical, if you will, of the spectacle of professional wrestling. So, what's going on, Game Logic?
That's my friend. Talk about how we like us some wrestling.
Yeah, like some professional wrestling. And WWE's now calling it professional wrestling again, by the way. Remember, it was sports entertainment for a long time?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, they're actually calling it professional wrestling now. That actually happened at WrestleMania this past weekend.
Nice. Did you watch the events?
Oh, yeah, I watched. Look, they are... Did
you do the full 2 days?
I did, yeah. I watched 2 days, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So for me, Logic, like this is, I know you've gone back in time. I'm not saying time. You've gone back and started watching the Ruthless Aggression era, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So this to me is the best WWE since the Ruthless Aggression era, Attitude era. The storytelling, and it's like they're incorporating some elements of, I think, the Ruthless Aggression era and the Attitude era now. Like you could see elements of that now. It's like it's not PG WWE anymore. Like that was the worst WWE in my opinion. But since Vince McMahon's left, the product's gotten better. Like this is all Triple H. He is running the show now, running creative. It's just they are firing on all cylinders. It's great. But I was telling the listeners, Logic, I was late because I was watching AEW Dynamite this evening, and I usually have Dynamite playing in the background while we podcast live because it's always live from 8 to 10 p.m. And they showed footage of the incident that happened at All In, which took place last August in Wembley Stadium for AEW. They had about 83,000 or 85,000 spectators there at Wembley. Yes, this is a gaming podcast, Pixel Slap. I'm getting to the gaming stuff. Logic, you have fans here in the live chat. Everyone's saying hello to you.
Oh well, yeah, I'm not logged into YouTube yet, so I will. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, so they show the incident between that ultimately led to CM Punk being fired, and there's a lot of controversy whether or not the AEW should show this. Well, I will say this: I think they're trying to kick off what I would call the Monday Night Wars Part 2, except they're not both on Monday night. One's on Wednesday, the other one's on Monday. But they showed the footage, and it's security footage, so you can't hear anything. You don't know what's being said back and forth between Jack Perry and CM Punk. But in my opinion, it doesn't look good on CM Punk's behalf. He pushes Jack Perry. Jack Perry doesn't push back. Jack Perry doesn't push back at all. And then CM Punk pushes him like twice. Jack Perry doesn't push back. CM Punk grabs him, puts him in a guillotine, front face like choke. And then looks like he leans over to Gorilla, where I think Tony Khan's probably sitting. Looks like he's having some words. And but this goes back to the spectacle of, if you remember the Monday Night Wars, this feels like that. So it's going to be interesting whether or not that pays off for AEW. But I will say this, Tony Schiavone did not look happy that they showed the footage. He was just kind of looking down when they went back to the broadcasting table with the announcers. So, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. If it, obviously AEW, and they tied that into a story between the Young Bucks, FTR, who are going to be wrestling later this month for the AEW tag team titles again. 4th time that they're wrestling. So anyhow, that's why I was late. That's why I'm talking about professional wrestling. But let's get on to video games. So we do have some things to talk about. We're going to discuss a new deal that Microsoft just made overseas. Also, give our impressions on the new Star Wars Outlaw reveal trailer that was released this week. We'll discuss an expensive Call of Duty microtransaction that has some people upset, Logic, believe it or not. We have some
gamers are always upset.
They're just. I'm sorry. I think gamers, and I don't mean this to offend anyone, but I don't think it applies to all gamers. But many gamers, I should say, are very angry people for whatever reason. I don't understand it. Maybe they need more sunlight. Stop playing video games. Go outside, take a walk. The sun's actually good for you, believe it or not. What do you get from the sun? Like vitamin E or something, or vitamin
D? I think I'm not gonna, or something like that. I don't know. I'm not gonna blame anybody for not wanting to go out in all this pollen, though.
Well, yeah, yeah. If you're an allergy sufferer like myself, and yeah, I don't blame you for not going outside. I forced myself to go outside today because it was so nice. I'm like, I gotta go. I just gotta get. I gotta just try to deal with it. And then I get out there and I was like, I feel like the pollen's crawling on my skin. So everyone's saying vitamin D. So thank you. That's good. Yeah. So yeah, I would say many gamers are just
bro,
angry.
Can I just? Yeah. I know we're gonna get to it. I actually don't want to get to it because I actually don't really want to talk about this topic.
What is it? Is it the appearance topic?
No, it's the.
Is it Destin?
Yes, that tweet has 5,000 views at this point.
Oh, what Destin's like? Oh, it's better than The Last of Us. He's talking about Fallout.
Yeah. So, my slander of him, the tweet has 5,000 views.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, let me. I didn't see this tweet, Logic.
No, but well, maybe apparently it has a lot of. Twitter does not. So I have notifications turned off on Twitter, but on top of that, like even in the app, like the little Twitter queue still doesn't present. Because I have it tuned. Because there's certain stuff I don't want to see. But a lot of times, like I have tweets that have comments that I have no idea that they have comments unless I go in and look at the tweet itself.
I see. You don't have it, yeah. All right, so we're going to talk about this real quick since you brought it up, Logic. And Destin just recently did another video where he presented this false equivalency of, well, no one said anything about Sony buying studios when they were doing it. Now they care about Microsoft buying Activision. If Sony could buy Activision, they would have done it. It's like, Jesus, Destin. Oh, my goodness. He's look, and it's funny, like Destin actually had mentioned my tweet on one of his videos. Actually, had shared my tweet on one of his videos, and he said, "Oh, and BRAP agrees with me. This guy hates me." I'm like, Destin, I don't hate you. Like, I just think that you I just don't think that you have any positive contribution to the conversation around gaming. It has nothing to do with hate. But when you straw man arguments and you make these, false equivalencies, and you skate by the fact that there's clear differences between buying $1 billion publisher who owns two of the largest IPs in video games, Call of Duty and Candy Crush, you try to compare that to Sony buying Insomniac. Like that's a different ball game, buddy. That's just a different ball game. And he constantly does this, and we see what happens. It just drives. It just ruins the conversation around gaming. So I have your tweet up here, Logic. Do you mind if I read your tweet, Logic?
No, go right ahead, because I'm responding to a person who's calling me a fanboy because of one tweet he's seen, and I'm telling him. You've seen one tweet and you're over here making accusations, indicating you yourself are console warring and a fanboy, whereas my comment about Ligari is based on a pattern of behavior over the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I just gave an example of one of the things he's done. He's done others. Destin says, the hashtag Fallout on Prime show is the best adaptation I've ever seen. Just a great watch. I loved it so much I binged it over 2 days. I cannot recommend it enough. Better than The Last of Us. It's a must watch. Somebody quote tweeted him and said, in a world where you can literally have both, why shoot something down for the sake of praising another? Or why does it always have to be a greater or less than thing? And then you reply, Logic. This is directed at Destin, because you're a corporate mouthpiece who trades attention for access like currency. So much so that you've reached over to TV shows and movies and count them as corporate IP in the console war. These are then the things that you do. This person should not be regarded as a credible journalist by any stretch of the imagination. And by the way, Logic, I don't disagree with you. I don't find Destin to be credible. He is pitting two shows against you. Look, I haven't seen the Fallout show, but we know what he's doing with the Better Than The Last of Us. He's trying to drive. It's funny. I saw someone accuse Christopher Dring of engagement farming this week, and I'm like, oh, actually, no, that's not Chris. Chris is not engagement farming.
Right, and that's the corollary, and the thing that to me is frustrating, right? Is I'm just going to say, extremist Xbox fans see a headline on GameIndustry.biz, but also, other sites, including IGN, as well as others, and like the most innocuous title that is not even clickbait, right, is just simply a statement. Some wackadoodle fan will come out of a dark corner and say, oh my God, why does this headline read the way that it does? Why are they making this comparison? This is obviously intended to slander Xbox. And I'm like, the person's making a statement of a fact in an effort to get you to read the article. There's clickbait, and then there's just innocuous labeling of a basic topic, of a basic subject, of a basic story. What's making it a thing that tweaks you is the way in which your ego is tightly coupled and heavily woven into the Xbox brand, to the extent that you have Stockholm Syndrome. You think everything is some catastrophic offense against the brand that somehow you are lenient upon to give you your daily dopamine hit. And it makes no sense. And on top of all the other crap, this has been a crappy week in the gaming conversation, by the way. Like literally almost every topic that we have discussed has been completely useless and isn't even really based on really news. Actually, that's been going on since last Friday. Typically, my problem is like Sunday is when like the stupid foolishness starts. It seems to run a cycle for a week, but this time it started last Friday.
Like we have all these
with
great
the Sarah
video
Bond
games
email.
out. Yeah, we have all these great video games out now, and I don't see anyone talking about them, or they're not playing video games. Like they're on Twitter upset about what Christopher Dring said. He talked about if Call of Duty's at the Microsoft event, it'll be the first time that it's being shown for. I'm paraphrasing what he said. Something to the effect that it'll be the first time it's shown for Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo. Sort of a unification of sorts, and people are like, oh. Well, he's engaged in fire. Why is he being negative? I'm like, he just said unification. And someone,
he was just suggesting that if Call of Duty is at Summer Game Fest this year, and it is the first year that Call of Duty is at Summer Game Fest under the ownership of one of the platform owners, then that means his allegory is that show, that brand aligned show, that brand sponsored show, hosted show, is actually a show not just for owners of that platform, but is actually for owners of the other platforms who either have Call of Duty or will soon have Call of Duty. It is a call to have other people attend that show who are not just there to dunk on Xbox.
Yeah,
that was the entire point of his tweet.
Yeah, I actually have the tweet here. Christopher Dring says, if it's true that Call of Duty will be at Xbox Summer Showcase, then this Xbox event might be the first one for PlayStation and Nintendo fans too. That'd be potentially something quite unifying. Now, the person who retweeted this said, and I mentioned his name. I don't have any issue with this individual, Ham Solo. I've been on the show. I am a little disappointed that Ham Solo's gone this route, though. Another day, another dig that doesn't make any sense. Why he need people to be mad? Why does he need people to be mad? That's engagement farming at its finest. And I'm like, first of all, that's not even a dig. I mean, the fact of the matter is, Chris isn't wrong. Microsoft now owns Call of Duty, and if it's at the Xbox Summer Showcase, which it wouldn't have been, okay, it would have. Activision's always had their own thing, right? Their own event, okay. And now they're going to be part of the Xbox event, whom Xbox owns the IP now. So he isn't wrong. The fact that it's coming to Nintendo, which it hadn't been on Nintendo before, is quite unifying. It's not engagement farming. And I did ask Ham, so I said, why is what he said engagement farming or dig? And he says it's like saying, why is MLB The Show, Destiny, or Marathon at a PlayStation Showcase? Well, you do understand that, one, Call of Duty hasn't been on Nintendo in quite some time. So being on Nintendo, the Nintendo platform would be huge. Also, neither MLB The Show, Destiny, or Marathon aren't as big of IPs as Call of Duty. And then he says, I don't know, it just sounds like stupid, I guess, to complain about. Chris isn't complaining. It's like, I don't understand why these conversations are happening. This is a very easy tweet to read and comprehend. I don't know how you get negativity from that tweet. And what's frustrating is that some of the more, and I see this, and I don't want to pick on the Xbox community, but I see this more on the Xbox community, where we see this victim mentality. If anything, that's negative. That's a dig. Oh, that's this. That's that. My God, it's a publicly traded company, for crying out loud, and it's just video games. Why are we so upset about stuff like that? There's so many games to be playing right now. You know, I hate to say, I'm not trying to pick on that community. And I'm not saying it's everyone in that community. And trust me, there's some bad actors on the PlayStation side. I don't see many bad actors on the PC and Nintendo side. But at least on the Xbox side, there's some bad actors there. And they say these things, and it just dumbs down the conversation around video games. So that's my rant. I'm sorry, Hamp. I think I may have interrupted you. Do you have anything else you wanted to add to?
Nope. That covers it. Nope.
Yeah. I hope I wasn't planning on ranting like that, by the way. So, anyhow. Yeah, but Destin is just, he's... All right. Where should we start here, Hamp? Lost my train of thought. I guess while we're talking about Microsoft, we should discuss that Microsoft Blizzard, they renewed their agreement with NetEase. So Blizzard Entertainment, this is according to GameIndustry.biz, which you've heard me say it before. If you're not following or not reading their articles, you should be. They are one of the last great bastions of gaming journalists. Christopher Dring, who apparently people thought he was being negative, works for GamesIndustry.biz. They do some great reporting over there. So according to GameIndustry.biz, Blizzard Entertainment has renewed its publishing agreement with NetEase, which is set to begin this summer. Microsoft has also entered an agreement with the games firm to bring NetEase titles to Xbox consoles and other platforms. Blizzard and NetEase had previously been in a partnership for 14 years, which came to an end in 2022, as both companies failed to negotiate renewal of their agreement. During that time, NetEase handled the publishing rights of Blizzard titles, such as World of Warcraft, Overwatch, Diablo, and StarCraft. Blizzard says, we are thrilled to reestablish our partnership with NetEase and to work together with deep appreciation for the collaboration between our teams to deliver legendary gaming experience to players in China. This is per President of Blizzard Entertainment, Joanna Ferris. Goes on to say, we are immensely grateful for the passion the Chinese community has shown for Blizzard games throughout the years, and we are focused on bringing our universes back to players with excellence and dedication. Xbox CEO Phil Spencer added, Blizzard and NetEase have done incredible work to renew our commitment to players. Blizzard's universe has been part of players' lives in the region for many years. Returning Blizzard's legendary games to China, returning Blizzard's legendary games to players in China while exploring ways to bring more titles to Xbox demonstrates our commitment to bringing more games to more players around the world. So that was Phil Spencer. Thoughts, Logic?
I mean, I've talked over the last couple of months about the difficulties that Microsoft will need to surmount in Asia. China is a key gate to get through that topic. So yeah, good for them. I mean, that was a relationship that needed to be repaired. It only does so much because only so much of the Activision Blizzard portfolio can go into China. So, it was apparent that a key sticking point was Kotick and his presence at Activision. So now that that's over, good for them.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I did see some interesting takes. And actually the story's it's funny that it's interesting the story came out now that this partnership they've renewed this partnership, because we talked quite a bit about some of the challenges, like Phil's talking about, well, it allows us to reach more gamers. But the type of games and we talked about this last week, the type of games that are being played in Asia are going to be a little bit different than what we play here. And I some of the reaction I saw from people on Twitter, and some other podcasts, was that they tend to look at things through their Western lens and assume that, oh, well, you know what, more, we get to the Xbox is going to bring their games, and their games tend to be more Western focused, first party games. We're going to bring those games to Asia. There's going to be more people to play them, and it's like, understand that that consumer base wants a different type of game. They play different games. Like Opponent 5150 says they're more into mobile games. And I'm like, we talked about this last week, Japan, yeah, absolutely. In Japan, they play more mobile type games than they do consoles. It's part why the PlayStation 4 or 5, hasn't sold as well there as it has in Europe and North America. So,
yeah, I mean, the thing we need to understand is, right, this is not like, I'm trying to think of an analogy. This is not like Sega publishing a game on Xbox, right? Or, Microsoft entering into agreement with another publisher to publish a game in Japan. Or there's not a lot of great analogies. Or like MLB, somebody who's published a game on another platform, then partnering with Xbox to publish it on Xbox, right? There's a significant delta in these games that go to China. I think I've talked about a lot of the frameworks, I think even on here or even on the rant, that talks about the delta, right, in getting a game into China. So first of all, it's a different game. You have a significant compliance regime to get through to be compliant with the Chinese anti-addiction compliance framework. And that includes basically review of your game for, I will say, for content from the perspective of a land ruled by the Chinese Communist Party, right? So first you have to clear all the anti-addiction hoops, which apply to minors, how long they can play, the use of facial ID or some other type of identity verification for a person just to log into the game. Those are things that you have to have implemented in your game, whether or not you implement them yourself or you contract with NetEase or Tencent to take care of that for you. Again, these are assumptions that I'm making that their services that they provide. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just assuming that if they're the major two companies that people work with, that Western companies work with, because they have all the certifications and licenses to publish a game in China, that hopefully by now they wouldn't, the business model wouldn't be reliant on every Western developer implementing their own structure for being compliant with this law. But then, like I said, on top of that, then people go through it with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that it's compliant with all other regulations concerning content. Again, from a Chinese communist perspective, which is things that are established through the lens of wanting to ensure that Chinese citizens are not exposed to Western influences, right? So there's that. And that means the very content of the game is restructured. What that means from a configuration management perspective, from a source code perspective, is that is a different version of the game. So to try and kind of put it in kind of layman's terms, you have a thing that we call trunk, which is, let's call it, 70% of the baseline code of the game. And then you have different versions of the game that are cut off on things called feature branches. They are tagged to establish, when a feature branch is releasable. And so this means that this is a separate feature branch of the code, which is what I constantly talk about are the types of things that drive cost, because the implementations on that feature branch are different than on trunk. So and then they have to be merged, right? So that then all those changes are available out of trunk, so that the code can be retagged for a different version as changes implemented and as you go through the life cycle of the code. So these are things that drive cost. Then on top of that, you're selling it through them. I mean, they're publishing your game in China. You aren't publishing your game in China. They are. So you're cutting a different version of the code. You are keeping that version in sync with all the changes going on all of the other branches, right? When bugs are corrected, then you're giving them a cut of that revenue. I don't know what that is, but seeing as how the industry standard is 30%, it may be as much as 30%. It might be more because there's additional services they're providing, yada, yada, yada. So again, this is not you selling a $70 game at GameStop and getting, $58 worth of the revenue, right? There's other significant hits to it, and it's also increasing your O&M tail for maintaining that code.
Yeah, no, that's a great breakdown logic, because that's a part of the equation that many people don't understand or even think about, So,
a couple other points. The other thing is, again, if people would kind of read the details on this, a major part of the problem and the reason Activision was suing NetEase is because NetEase was propping up its own game, which was a direct competitor to World of Warcraft. So this is part of the problem, is that when you go into China, part of the problem is they have a much more significant gray market and piracy problem than you have in other parts of the world. I don't know if you're giving them source code or execute. There's incredible documentation burden with this, by the way. When you go to publish a game in China, you have to provide as much as up to 80 pages of source code, right, for the people to review. So at the end of the day, I'm not sure if they're giving them in terms of a configuration managed computer item, or what we call it in the industry a CSCI. I don't know if they're giving them the actual source code in a repo or just a deployable executable. But the point is that you're also at some point giving IP of yours and giving it over to be deployed in China, which means, again, because of their gray market and piracy problem, it's subject to be obtained by other people. You will also get direct competitors and knockoffs to your game that are marketed on the Chinese market. And because that consumer base will go after stuff like that and consume that, you also have a larger kind of competition landscape problem in China as well.
Sorry, I'm up typing the Viper XT. So Viper XT, look, man, I've seen you in the Pro Xbox Centric podcast, rattling off a lot of the Xbox Centric talking points podcasts, or talking points on those podcasts. Sorry, I can't talk. And you asked the question, look, you want to know when do we think the next PlayStation Showcase will be? I don't know. There's a rumored one apparently next month, or this month, I think. I don't know if that's going to happen. And you said it would be nice to see what's coming from Sony's first-party studios. We need more than one game besides MLB. Why? Look, I don't disagree with you, Viper. That I would like to see what's coming from Sony's first party. Obviously, we know there's a roadmap based on the leaks from Insomniac. But I don't. But that tends to be an Xbox talking point. I've seen you in those chats yucking it up, and using that as a talking point. Look, there's other exclusive content to play on that platform. And if you're only in it for the first party stuff, that's all you care about. I get it, but there's other games to be played right now. That's really my point. Again, I understand wanting to see stuff from first party, but I often feel like when people say that, they disqualify the other great content that's exclusive right now on that platform. So I don't know if you're doing that, if you're purposely trying to exclude those other games that have come out, Rise of the Ronin, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, what's it called? Helldivers 2, which is still doing well, by the way, Logic. That game, I mean, they kind of hit the lighting on the bottle a little bit with that. That game seems like it could have some legs. You know?
Yeah, and when is Stellar Blade out?
That comes out in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. So I can't see Viper's XT's comment, so I'm not sure exactly the nature of his question, but I just want to go back and kind of tune everyone up or like on a fine point of, the commentary on this podcast and maybe some of the other things that we say on Twitter. Whether or not, this whole notion of, for instance, last week, like I made a comment about like not having clarity on what like the 10 games are that are coming that Matt Booty referred to. And, somebody made a comment in last week's video and put out like this super huge long laundry list of games. And I went back and decomposed each of those game titles, right? And, there's only 9 of them out of the 20 something or whatever that person posted that I'm like, okay, only 9 of these count as what I would qualify as a major release. Many of them have dates of a year. For me personally, I don't regard a game as having confidence in its release until the publisher fine tunes it to at least a season, like fall 2024 or spring 2024, something that tells me that it's more than just a hand wave of 2024. But my point is that when we talk about these things from on that commentative perspective, it is oriented around the nature of where we feel the market's level of consumer confidence around a product sits. It's not about whether or not I like Xbox or I'm satisfied, right? I'm super hyper specific on this podcast about saying, this is how I feel. This is how I assess the market response to it is going to be. This is my business strategy assessment of how it's going to impact the business, right? Parsing it into those 3 different perspectives. So when we're saying, hey, consumer confidence is shaken because there's a lack of clarity on where the Xbox roadmap is, that is something that we tie to the fact that they've only sold 27 million consoles. They only have 22 million organic Game Pass subscribers. And they themselves are talking about their need to pivot because of the market competition and adversarial state and posture that they're in. Whereas the PlayStation console has sold 50 million or more and appears to be doing just fine. So again, it's not a matter of whether or not we like it or not. It's a matter of how we see them performing on the market. And so if the question, well, when is the next PlayStation podcast, is kind of a see there, I told you so, or why this trope that I hate, why don't you guys keep that same energy? I'm like, I'm not keeping that same energy because Xbox doesn't have the same freaking performance metrics that PlayStation does. And when it has those performance metrics, then I will speak to that. But I can't speak to something, and this is our whole point of the way other people talk about it. I can't speak to something that's made up or contrived in order to make people feel better, because that's not my job, right? It's not my role on this podcast to come in here and give people a warm bowl of porridge and make you feel okay about the $500 expenditure that you made. That's your job.
I like the commentary about the porridge. We don't serve porridge here.
Yeah, and if Booty's talking about this was my concern because Matt talked. So first of all, and again, we went through this again last week. I'll go through it again. The way the voice track has gone, right, from Xbox GLT has been, hey, we want 4 major AAA first-party releases in the subscription service every year. That was 2021, I think, at a summer, I think, investors meeting or strategic meeting that they publicized some of their commentary about. Then they apparently struggled with that through 2021, 22, and 23. And so last year, after the summer showcase, the voice track became, we want to put out 4 first-party releases each year. And I think this guy's name was Maker of Chaos or something, who was in the chat the last couple of weeks. That is a delta between the thing they said in 2021, right? So it was 4 major first-party AAA releases. Now it's just 4 major releases. And one of the things in the voice track Matt Booty talked about last week he was counting Towerborn. When he talked about 2023, he counted Redfall amongst one of those 4 major releases. I was like, okay, well, that's kind of a problem. And then for upcoming 2024, he was counting Towerborn as one of those releases. And again, now we are talking about it separately in a conversation. I'm talking about how I respond to that. To me, Towerborn isn't a release that like pops up on my windshield as anything significant that would anchor, couple, and make the Game Pass subscription service a desirable product. So, and different consumers are going to respond to that differently. I would have a different assessment, maybe, if I were talking about the general consumer base and how I affected the business. As far as the general consumer base, I also don't think that Towerborn is a needle mover that when a person goes into GameStop and says, hey, why should I buy an Xbox? And the salesperson says, well, there's a subscription service. You could just pay $17 a month and get access to all these games. You know, one of those games is Towerborn, and then they see Towerborn. I don't think that's a reason that makes them say, oh, yeah, that's definitely what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we mean when we talk about needle movers, and that's what I mean when I talk about separating our points of view, and that's what I also mean about when we're doing, you know, making commentary from a business perspective on the way these companies are doing. It's a matter of their performance metrics on the market. It's not a matter of our personal feelings. If your comeback to us is based on your personal feelings, that's what we talk about when there's a disconnect and we're talking past each other, because quite frankly, I don't give a crap how you feel.
All right. Speaking of, I'm going to go back to NetEase real quick here, Logic. There is one game that actually looked quite interesting, Marvel Rivals, which is, I think pull this up here. I think it's a closed alpha or getting ready to be.
Is this the Overwatch looking Marvel thing?
Yeah. Yeah, it's coming. Oh, okay. Closed beta. I'm sorry. Alpha begins in May. So yeah, that's actually, that's one game from them I'm interested. But I think what else do they have here? I'm trying to look at some of the other games they have. They have Lord of the Rings, Rise to War, Dead by Daylight Mobile. A lot of the games I'm seeing that they work on or have are mobile games.
This is now you're talking about NetEase's portfolio.
NetEase, yeah. I'm looking at
Yeah. I mean, NetEase. I mean, unless I'm mistaken, I believe NetEase puts games on Xbox now. I mean, I don't think there's ever been the disconnect was about getting games in China. I don't think there's been any like barrier to them putting games on Xbox other than their own willingness. So hopefully this will.
I know Naraka Blade Point's on Xbox right now and PlayStation, so that's already there. That's a NetEase game.
Yeah, I mean, what are your? Look, I'm not particularly like lathered up about Marvel Rivals. I would need to see more gameplay or understand a little bit more about the game. You know, I'm a big Marvel fan, but it's being described as a shooter, and that like I don't necessarily know that, you know, Marvel right that works right with Marvel IP. Like it. Yeah. I mean, people said their problems with the Avengers were that it was very much a beat 'em up, but I was kind of like, well, I mean, that's the thing about comic book characters, right? The whole thing about putting a team together is you always pick up on like the characters that have ranged attacks versus the ones who are melee, and being part of the strength of the team. So, so I'm not sold necessarily on the notion of it being a shooter. I don't know exactly how that's going to work, and I worry about contrived things like we're going to give Hulk unlimited like rock ammo so he can throw rocks, and that makes him fit within a shooter. Like I just don't know exactly how that's going to work.
Yeah. Let's see. So we talked about Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade, the game's gone gold now. So Shift Up had announced that. They tweeted that out. Took a picture. They took a picture together, collectively together. I believe the studio got everyone PlayStation 5s as well. I don't know if you saw that, Logic. But
they got all their employees PlayStation 5s.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Nice.
Well, I don't know about all the employees. Like, I don't know if HR got one, but I think it's the developers or the people that worked on the game and got them. Yeah. So I don't think the admin at the front desk got. I don't think they received the PlayStation 5. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's the case. So let's see here. Hold on here. Let's see here. I just lost the article. Oh, here we go. So also one thing outside of them announcing going gold. Last week, this was also an article that came out that Stellar Blade's devs working on a new cross-platform next-gen game after its PS5 exclusive. According to a recruitment page on Developer Shift Up's website, the studio is seeking new staff for a brand new game. The game is apparently a cross-platform next-gen project And unfortunately, for the time being, at least, that's literally all we know about the game. This is, again, I should mention this is according to an article on Games Radar. So now they also, I just had this article up now. I just closed it. I got to find it again. But something you brought to my attention, the head of the studio discussed that they're not going to be they're not going to look at a games as a service type game or live service game.
Yeah, basically said, again, this is kind of it kind of echoes what I said in my Nintendo thread right last week. He kind of mentions that look, everybody's going to tell you, today that, your next thing needs to be a live service game, like a game as a service, and you need to cash in. And he's like, yeah, we're not doing that. The type of stories we want to tell are best, exemplified in the single player story driven genre. And that's what we're going to do. Cause his feeling is that what the market needs, what the industry needs right now more than anything is variety. And there's parts of that I agree with. I talk about this notion of games as a service, and we've had people in our chat, and we've had people in our thread say, oh yeah, that's the future, that's what everybody's going to be playing. These kids want heavily socially tethered content, and but I've also mentioned, look, it's an attention driven economy right now, not just within games but with everything else that you're competing with. I constantly go back to we laughed at Netflix and said that they were making an excuse when they said, hey, our competition is a competition for eyeballs, and Fortnite is as much a competitor as content on Amazon Prime. And I look at what we talked last week about, what the competitive math looks like when you say, hey, I'm going to do a game as a service or a live service game, and you're not somebody backed by a big financial institution. I'm like, okay, so you're going to make a run at Fortnite, Call of Duty, and Apex Legends. That's your competition. And those three games, I mean, we just had the sales data with Call of Duty Vanguard, literally the worst Call of Duty made in the last 14 years. And it sold 30 million copies. 30 million. 30 million is in excess of what many first-party games sell on their own platforms. Like, the best first-party games don't hit 30 million. And that's even in the PlayStation camp, right, where they've got 130 million active users. MAU. So your competitive ask is you're going to deploy a game that's going to go head-to-head with Fortnite, Warzone, and Fortnite, three free-to-play games, and and attempt to pull those people's attention from careers and profiles that they're heavily invested in, where they've got KD and stats that are tracking and content. I mean, that's just a daunting, right, competitive ask. So yeah. I don't think you can land on this summary thing that, oh yeah, that's the thing you need to do. Particularly the smaller you are, it gets that math gets worse and worse.
Well, yeah, because you basically have to dedicate your entire studio time as supporting that live service game, which means you have to grow in size, more money, and it's not a sure bet. I mean, like you bring up Fortnite. We talked about Fortnite earlier this week, and I said to you, I said, Logic, Fortnite, what they've done is ingenious. It is, I mean, just tying in pop culture from movies to comics to music. I mean, I shared this with you this week. My second oldest started listening to Eminem because of Fortnite, and so just the infusion of pop culture of that game is just, I mean, wow! It's just genius. I mean, they it's a way to just bring in, we talk about like the casuals, right? And something that's going to maybe get people to try something who maybe not play video games. Maybe pop culture is one way to do that, to funnel people into gaming. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, what they're doing is just incredible. I mean, a lot of the kids that are on my second oldest's baseball team, they all play Fortnite. They all play Fortnite. And so and they're always talking about the emotes and the music. It's crazy. I mean, and it's actually a pretty good game as it is to you. The shooting mechanics are actually pretty good. Like good weapons. Sometimes some weapons can be a little OP, but outside of that, it's actually a pretty good game. I don't play build mode because that's a little bit too much for me.
Then BRAP, why are they pulling skin rarity color schemes from the store?
I have no idea. And actually, this article by Games Radar actually talks about this. This is by Catherine Lewis. This was published yesterday. The headline of the article is absolutely outrageous. Epic steps in it by removing Fortnite's cosmetic rarity system and immediately selling skins deemed overpriced by angry players. So the article goes on to say uncommon and legendary skins are a thing of the past. Huge new changes landed on Fortnite today. Very few players seemed happy about it. Color-coded cosmetic rarities are now a thing of the past, meaning there's no more obvious separation between a rare skin and a legendary one. And fans are worried what this means for the future of skin prices. Yeah, I don't. This one's a head scratcher for me, Logic. But let me finish reading the article. Today, however, Epic Games announced that the system is being retired. Now, the only cosmetics labeled with colors are those found in special series categories such as the gaming legends like Leon Kennedy and Kratos. The shop has evolved significantly. This is according to the blog post at Epic. The shop has evolved significantly to support multiple types of cosmetics and items across games. So we're retiring the old Battle Royale inspired system of colors and tags for cosmetic quality. Different series of cosmetics, such as the Icon series or Gaming Legends series, will still be there to help you find your favorite stuff. And the author of this article goes on and asks the question, what does this actually mean? In one sense, it can be considered a good thing. The rarity of your skin really doesn't mean much if you like a design, and the change essentially encourages people to use their favorite and decide for themselves what they consider to be their personal legendary skins. However, aside from the fact that players' cosmetic lockers are now harder to navigate at a glance, the main concern that's being aired is whether this could signify an increase to cosmetic prices going forward. With no rarity system to indicate a pricing guideline, players are wondering if we can see skins previously presented as uncommon or rare outfits priced much higher than you'd expect. So, a lot of the article actually quotes some players here who play Fortnite. One said, "This is sickening, genuinely disheartening to see them do this because that means they can do whatever they want with the prices because we'll never see the rarity." So someone else says, "For some reason, I can't help but feel overwhelmed. Can't help but feel overhauling the rarity system means also overhauling the pricing system just so any skin can be expensive for no reason." So those are some of the concerns by members of the Fortnite community. Thoughts, Logic?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me personally, the thing that would bug me more is about the organization aspect, the quality of life. Just because I am an OCD person, so yeah, I would like to be able to go in and see, all of like the most rare skins, because those would probably be the ones that I would want to wear mostly, believing that not a ton of people had them, and so taking that away, disrupts that schema. I don't necessarily fall down the hill and buy into the everything about microtransactions is I don't know, is Machiavellian and manipulative, and because I always feel like you can choose to not buy a thing. So this is one that we'll just have to watch. I do dislike that aspect, right? That it means that you don't really have a belief that, like, under the old schema, I would have expected that, let's just call it for every 100 skins that are released, right? That 10 of them would have kind of been, legendary or whatever. That 20 would have been like the next, rarity tier down, and 30 and 40, right, and so on. But now you just don't know. but I also partially expect it's and the only connectivity that thing was too was a notion of price, because you can't really say like I don't know if like a purple skin was like always a licensed property, for instance. And so you would expect that one to cost higher because there were licensing fees associated with it. So like that I could get my head wrapped around. But now you just don't know, right? And you don't know that there's any connectivity to cost for that. So I can see how it would be, confusing or bothersome for people. It's like, to a certain extent, I know it's not a practical reality. I just wish that maybe there would just be like a flat baseline cost, right, for a skin, and just be done with it. Even if that meant, skins that used to be less expensive got raised, right, to normalize to some type of baseline price.
Yeah. I think for me, I like knowing which skins are rare. Which, because those are the ones I tend to wear. I don't wear I don't want to say basic, but I guess basic ones. Like I just don't. And a lot of the ones that I have are rare. Those are the ones I tend to use. So, but it's going to be interesting, I think, to see if this leads to some of those price increases, concerns of price increases that some of the Fortnite players, members of the community are concerned about. I always say, companies are greedy, so when someone says, "Oh, Epic's greedy," it's like, no shit, Sherlock. Like, all companies are greedy. They're in the business to make money, so that's kind of the one thing that I want to keep an eye on and see if that comes to fruition. Some of these concerns that people are voicing. So, speaking of microtransactions, this is an article by IGN. Call of Duty players say new King Kong glove that costs more in COD points than the game itself isn't worth buying. So it's an $80. It's really not a one-time $80 purchase, right? I don't really agree with that articulation, like from the headline. Like you're not paying $80 for the glove. You are being the glove is an extra thing that you get if you purchase the other four things, right? Which is not unlike any other business model where, this is why you get a discount on an annual subscription if you pay for the entire year up front, right? This is why, if you purchase at a certain tier, you get free shipping, right, on a thing if you spend a certain amount. It's not different than that, I don't think. Yeah, it's so Call of Duty is a new weapon that asks players to fork out an eye-watering $80 in COD points to in order to unlock it. This is according to the article. But it's not. It's only. Hold on a sec here. It's not you can't just buy the actual glove, right, outright. You actually have to buy some other items, right, to get the glove.
Well, it's the way I understand it. There's 4 packs, and if you buy all 4 within like the collection, then you get the glove as well. After you buy the last one.
Let's see here. I don't see anything in the article about that.
Yeah, I mean there's several things like that in the store. If you go in the store now, there are certain parts of a collection that you can see that they have like a 4-box thing. List like in the JPEG in the JPEG tile for the thing.
You have to complete the Titan collection.
Yeah.
So it's
4 packs that are 2,400 COD points a piece, which is like the equivalent of $20. And then after you buy the last one, then you get this thing.
Yeah, I'm seeing that here in the article now. So there's some back and forth. Some people are concerned that look, some people are saying it's not worth it. Some people are saying that they're concerned that that Activision is testing the waters with this new type of cosmetic, that if it's successful, they're going to be introducing more of these types of things. Well, of course they will. They're a business. They're going to make money. And I saw, it's funny. Somebody tagged me in a tweet, and I hate being tagged these types of tweets. Someone said, someone let Lena Khan know what Microsoft's doing. I was like, how about this? How about you just be an adult, a consumer, and you don't buy it? you don't buy the microtransactions. You just don't participate. That's it. Just say no, I'm not buying it. You don't need to let Lena Khan know that this is somehow bad, or you're the biggest voice you can have is saying no to the company. Hey, I'm not going to spend my money on this. But that is a concern that some people think this is going to introduce some more microtransactions, cosmetics that would total this amount. And there's some people that are saying, hey, this is just something that should be considered a bonus. And it's nothing more for those who complete the Titan collection. So any other thoughts on the Beast Glove logic?
People just need to stop getting on.
Oh, what's up, B Money?
Complaining about everything. when are we gonna stop crying? What is all this nonsense every fucking day?
We just
crying about something.
We just talked about this at the start of the show.
I don't understand, man.
Yeah, I mean, B, like I like somebody literally tagged me. And I said, look, just don't buy it.
If you do not like whatever is going on with whatever particular company, don't participate. That's it. No whining, no crying. It don't got to affect your life. If it's not something that you want to participate in, move on. Go deal with something that you care about. Be happy. I don't understand all this extra negative energy every fucking day on the internet. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't disagree, B. These are the same people that are complaining about this that are buying the retro Jordan 1s on StockX. Yeah, no, it's funny, B. Like we actually discussed this at the start of the show, where we said it's like with all these games, there's a lot of great games out right now. A lot of great video games. I see more complaining than conversation around those games.
Nobody's talking about video games, and that's the problem.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Nobody's talking about video games. Nobody's buying video games. Every podcast is talking about news, not talking about video games. It's fucking sickening, bro.
I don't disagree.
Every article in the gaming industry is negative. Nobody's talking positive about anything. Nobody's highlighting anything. It's all just a bunch of BS, man.
Yeah.
And every post is, some fanboy fodder nonsense. This is better than that, and that is better than this. And nobody can be happy about nothing, man. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Hey, B, I know you're a Battlefield fan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What do you think about EA raising the price of EA Plus or EA Play subscription?
Oh, I don't care. I don't subscribe to EA Play.
Yeah, I might have to cancel my subscription.
See how easy that is, people.
Yeah,
I don't care that they're raising the price because I don't participate. I moved on with my life.
Yeah, I think
I don't care how much they charge.
BRAP, why are you canceling? I mean, the price increase is like $10 annually.
Oh, is it $10? I thought it was more than that. I thought it was like 40 or 50. Okay, I was wrong.
It's right, and this is exactly about how the article is spun, right, to goad people towards outrage. I mean, so I saw the article, and then I was like, well, I mean, how much of the price increases? It's going to $40 for the regular subscription and $120 for Pro, and I think Pro before was $110, and I think the regular before was either $20 or $25.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It was 30. It was 30 for the year.
Okay, so yeah, it's a $10 increase then for both.
For both, yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay, I probably won't be canceling it then. Yeah, I thought it was more. I was like, oh, wait a minute, because I see, this is my fault. I didn't do my due diligence. I think I saw someone's like, oh, it's like a $30-$40 increase or something. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
This is why you need to fact check. I was guilty of that today. I didn't do that. I didn't do my fact checking.
Now, what I'm curious about, particularly from B Money, is what are your thoughts on Motive being ratcheted to become part of the Battlefield production pipeline?
The thing is that over the past 10 years, they've added and subtracted different teams for these Battlefield projects. And, Motive does great work. they were initially going to be a Star Wars team, and then they became the Dead Space team, and I think they're still working on some sort of Star Wars game or some other licensed property. So to have them come over is, they did pretty well with Dead Space. They have some technical knowledge. So if they're going to work on the single player stuff, I'm cool with that. With Vince at the helm, like I'm kind of just excited. You know what I mean? I think, just from everything that he's done and the teams that he's led, what he's done with Respawn and kind of taking them away from just being known as this shooter studio, and kind of involved them to do other things. With him at the helm, it just, it fills me with excitement because it's like we finally have somebody who knows what they're doing at the top. And to kind of bring the franchise back to its glory days of, Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, that was probably like the peak franchise. So they finally announced that season 7 was, it's going to be the last season for 2042. And they're kind of, got their heads down and focusing on the next project. So, we just have to see what that's going to be. I think it's going to be 2025, 2026 before it actually releases, which, I'm fine with that. We'll keep churning on 2042 until then. But at least we have somebody who can kind of steer us in a clear direction. And it seems to be multiple projects going on under the Battlefield umbrella. So, as they start to roll out, as long as they're good, I think the community will be pretty happy. And we can only kind of go up from here. You know what I mean? The last 3 or 4 releases have all been jumbled messes at the beginning, and a lot of excitement at the beginning, and then it tapers off pretty quick. So I think with having somebody who's done Call of Duty franchise into franchise and Titanfall and had some great success there, and then worked on a Star Wars project, and now to kind of take on Battlefield, I think that's he had an idea of taking on Call of Duty head to head with Titanfall. Now you take the other big military shooter in a space, and now you're in charge of it. So I think he's going to come out swinging, and I think everybody should be pretty excited for what's coming up from Battlefield.
Do you think it makes sense for Battlefield for that team to look like the Call of Duty team, right? Like 10 teams or however many it is now, 1,000, 1,200 plus people, all collectively working on a singular IP, maybe lining up studios, right? Because they were kind of trying to, Ridgeline was supposed to be in charge of the next story campaign for Battlefield, and then that was given over to Criterion. Would it make sense to get teams in a rotation where, Criterion does the next story campaign for Battlefield, and then, and then Motive does it next, and then a third studio does it after that, and for them to get to a point where they're kind of clicking on all cylinders and they have this big production line, integrated, working, with a team who's the principal on the multiplayer, and a team who's principal on, whatever they do, if they're going to do a battle royale mode or whatever, and then teams that are oriented around the single player campaign? Or do they just continue down the road where it seems like DICE is like the central hub of everything, and it's all dependent upon, how that one team pulls it all together?
Well, I think DICE is still going to be the central hub of it all. I think, they're still going to be the one that has, their name is going to come first on all the games, because I think DICE is going to just be involved, throughout the entire property. But I think, having that rotation of different teams that kind of bring something new and fresh to the franchise, because Battlefield is never going to release yearly like Call of Duty does. It always goes on that every other year or every 3-year release. So I think having that other content is what's going to be key, though, because we would traditionally just get those those multiple updates, throughout the years until the next major release happens. So I think if you have those separate teams that can kind of bring something that's more fleshed out, similar to, kind of what Destiny does, when they release their, biannual updates, that'll keep the player base engaged and maybe even bring some new players, to the franchise. So I think it's a good idea overall. We kind of have to see how it plays out, but I do think that DICE is gonna still be, the main focus or the main driver of the franchise.
And you and some of the audience in chat, I think, told me the last time we talked about Battlefield. So and I've just missed it. So Battlefield does have a 6v6 mode on smaller maps.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll need to get over it. It's a pretty popular. Does that mode enjoy a pretty healthy player base?
Do we lose B?
No, I think that was Logic. He was starting to bot out.
Oh, he was botting out for you. Okay. Logic, are you there?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I was asking, do you think that 6v6 mode has a pretty healthy player base?
No, no, I don't. Maybe. I mean, it's possible, but I think, if you're a Battlefield player, you're going to play on the traditional Battlefield modes, which are Rush. You're going to play on. I can't think of the other one. But the other major Battlefield mode, the one that I play the most, that has all the vehicles in it as well. So the 6v6, I mean, that's if you're playing Battlefield, you're not playing it for that. There's other games that'll provide that for you.
Okay.
If you're playing Battlefield, it's something totally different. You're not playing it for the running Conquest. Thank you very much, player. Yeah, Conquest is the other major mode that most people play if you're playing Battlefield.
Not a fan of Conquest, big buddy.
Oh no, that's where it's at, man.
Really? I can't.
If you're playing Battlefield, that's why you play the game. That's if you're a fan of Battlefield, that's the mode that you play because it's different than any other shooter that's out there. It has tanks, it has helicopters, it has jets, it has infantry combat. Like if you're a Battlefield fan, that's what you play because that's the style of gameplay that you're looking for. If you just want to run a gun and twitch shoot around corners and stuff, there's a franchise for you. There's Call of Duty. If you want something more tactical, 6v6, you could play Rainbow Six. But if you're a fan of Battlefield, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah. I'm in search for like a backup for multiplayer because Halo Infinite used to be my backup to Call of Duty. But I've just hit points where I'm not happy with the player base, at least that I saw. The crazy thing is Battlefield is still $60 on Steam. And I'll admit my own depravity. I bought it because I wanted to get back into the Need for Speed series. Need for Speed Heat, which came out in 2019, is a $70 game on Steam. EA's audacity. I gotta applaud it, but man, wow. Sometimes.
Is that game even selling?
What's that, Battlefield or Need for Speed?
Need for Speed, because I feel like typically when you see games that are like full retail, like 4 years later, or whatever the case is, I forget.
It's got
people still playing it.
Yeah. Need for Speed Heat didn't get a lot of great critical reviews of the game, but it's very positive on Steam, both recent and all. It's at 84%, and it's at 84 and 84. This is why I say, like, a lot of times, there's something, and I'm not one of these people who say review scores don't matter. I don't think that's realistic in the market. But a lot of times you will find, this is why I think you, like, always, particularly as a PC gamer, you always need to go back and kind of check in on games over time and see what the Steam community's feeling are, because that's like the best barometer, I think, of how a game is playing on the market, at least the PC market. And you'll often go to Steam and just find things that are out of sync with, data that you see other places. But yeah, I mean, Need for Speed appears to be hugely popular on Steam. So much so that EA is confident charging $70 for it.
I was going to say, if they wouldn't be charging, I guess if people they didn't think they could sell it, I would imagine.
Right.
Yeah, to me, just Conquest is it's just too much going on. Like, it's funny because Conquest was actually one of the reasons why I started playing Battlefield. Because I remember I was like, oh, you can't do this on COD. You can do this on Battlefield. But then it just got a little bit overwhelming for me. Like when they did 32 versus 32, I was like, oh, that's too much. And isn't it like, how big are the matches now, B?
The main matches are still 32 versus 32. Okay. They had 64 v 64 at the beginning, but it was breaking the game. Like it was just too much. And they kind of scaled back and went back to the 32 v 32. But you can still play 64 v 64 in different modes. But it was too crazy, man. You got just people everywhere.
What I loved was it Battlefield 3 with Metro?
Yeah.
And what mode was that? I forget what mode that was. Where you would capture the checkpoints and then move forward in the map.
Yeah, that's Rush.
Yes, Rush. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you said that earlier. Yeah. Yeah, Rush is my favorite of the modes now on Battlefield.
Yeah. Rush is really fun because it focuses the gameplay because you have to hit those two spots. Blow up the two sections, and then it progresses the map forward. So only thing with that is if you're not playing with a squad, you're basically just getting thrashed because if you're out there solo, everybody's trying to get to those two spots, and everybody's focus is only focused on those two spots. Whereas if you're playing Conquest and you're trying to hold down different sectors of the map, you can. I play a lot of times solo. I just get on there, and you can kind of communicate without communicating. People who've been playing Battlefield for so long, they just know what to do. You get you a section, lock down that sector and just destroy anybody who's trying to come over there. So
yeah, go ahead.
It's a great time on Battlefield, though, man.
I don't know. Maybe I'll get back to it.
And it's a lot of people came back to it after the last season 5 is when it kind of turned the corner. A lot of people started coming back, and it's held a pretty strong player base.
Yeah.
I always find matches every time I hop on there. Forte plays on there a lot.
Forte's playing, really?
Yeah. Forte plays on there all the time, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe I'll get back on. I don't know. Big shout out to last week's guest, Detective Seeds, who says they seem to keep game prices high. They being EA. They seem to keep game prices high to entice you into EA Play instead to subscribe. That's it. That could be a reason, maybe.
It's a win-win on both sides, really. I mean, if they get you to bite on the price of their normal price games, it's a W. But if you fall into their subscription, that's great. But their subscription isn't priced really crazy. So to me, I don't understand what they get out of it if you subscribe to their subscription, especially on PC, because it's priced so low. And if you play Madden, FIFA, and one other game, you did the price of the subscription. So, but I don't know. I guess they got to figure it out.
Well, BRAP, maybe they keep the price high to make you feel like you're not buying a subordinate product.
You don't say.
Yeah, it seems like some other studios feel that same way.
Yeah. Well, I was told that $70 will go the way of the dodo bird.
Yeah, I was told. Hey, I was told every game that sells for $50 is guaranteed success.
Oh my goodness!
Who's saying this nonsense?
You can't elaborate. Can't be talking. You can't elaborate logic.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Saber CEO said $70 games will go the way of the dodo. Is his prediction?
Yes.
And
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But then also concurrently said, hey, the reason we sell our game for $70 is so that people don't think that it's a subordinate product.
He did say.
Oh yeah. Yeah. How much is that cultural remake gonna cost?
Yeah.
That should be $70.
Yeah. So this was an article on GameIndustry.biz. Saber Interactive's CEO Matthew Karch. I don't know if I pronounced this correctly. His last name. The AAA model is going to change. So he says that this is an interview with him. He says games are getting cut left and right, so there's going to be, that's a great transition, by the way, Logic. Games are getting cut left and right, so there's going to be a situation, I think it's already starting this Christmas, where you're going to see a real scarcity of games. There's less coming out. The consolidation that's been going on in the industry is going to hurt that as well. And cost and the turmoil that the industry has been going through, teams will regroup, but the capital at the moment isn't just there. And so the industry is actually contracting somewhat. Supply of content is going to be way short of the demand. I mean, is it? I mean,
what is he talking about?
I mean, like,
there's been more games released in the first 3 months of this year than there were last year.
Well, he's citing that this is going to happen later in the year. But honestly, even if it's a slow fall, I'm just saying for me. I'm not saying for everyone else, but at least for me, like there's quite a few games I could probably go back to my back catalog of 2024 and play later this year if the fall is light in releases. You know, but I'd imagine Call of Duty's going to come out in the fall. I'll be playing that if that's something that I'm interested in. There's that. So it's kind of interesting. I don't disagree with you. It's kind of an interesting comment that he made. It kind of like, that there's going to be less supply out there, or the supply of content is going to be short of the demand. So, he also says,
I don't know where he pulled that nonsense from, but okay.
Yeah, he says that being able to produce games at a price point where we can be adaptable with the way we bring those games to market. We don't have to sell a game for $70. I'd prefer not to. I think that's expensive. I don't like that. It's almost not fair. Yeah, he sounds like someone else I know. Part of the reason Helldivers 2 has had the success that it has had is because it comes in at a much lower price point and it's accessible. Now, is it really $50? Is that? I think Helldivers 2 is just a good game. You know,
that's the conversation that most of these developers don't want to have, though. It's not the price of the product, quality of it. Your game, Helldivers could have been $70, and it might not have sold as well, but it still would have sold. People would have went out and bought it.
I don't disagree with that.
Like, it is what it is. If your game is crap, people aren't going to buy it.
Yeah,
if something that people aren't interested in, they're not going to buy it. Baldur's Gate 3 was $70. People went out and bought it, and it's not a game that typical players go out and buy.
Well, I'm sorry. What game was that? B? I missed that.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, $70. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
people ran out and bought it.
I mean, the other thing, B, is look what happened to Prince of Persia. It was priced at what, like $40? They didn't sell well. The recent Prince of Persia. Yeah, I don't.
It was $50, I think.
Oh, was it 50? I thought it was 40 for some reason. Okay, but that game didn't really necessarily sell well. But I look, I'm not going to say that the $50 price point didn't help Helldivers 2. Sure, is the icing on the cake, but I also don't disagree with you, B, that if it was $70, the game's good, and it's got that zeitgeist behind it. And you saw what happened. A lot of people wanted to play, and and the game has sold well, and it continues selling well. But yeah, just kind of an interesting comment. Logic, I know you kind of had some comments or thoughts on the commentary about $50 or Helldivers 2.
Yeah, I think mostly, again, this is a thing that so many gamers glommed onto and ran out to international waters with, yeah, that's right, that's the way it's going to be. And I'm like, let's not totally disregard, ignore, and skate by the fact that we have had a dozen other CEOs who have come out and said the exact opposite, right? That they're not charging enough for AAA games, that production costs are exceeding.
CEO.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to necessarily settle on either one of those is an absolute correct, right? That's the major problem with many of the conversations I've been involved in this week, is that everybody wants to get to a point of absolutism. Here's the one thing, and it's the one thing that's right, and we all have to agree on that. And I'm like, it's unfortunately, that's just not the way it is. And the same is true here. I think Saber is voicing things that some of which are, I think, correct and accurate for the market from his perspective, from where his company is and what his company is doing. I think if you look at the smaller subset of major publishers who earn the vast majority of the revenue in the industry, I think if you isolate to that, and this is why I constantly go back to people who try and pick apart FTC lawsuits and say that there aren't these submarkets in their segments, I'm like, no, yes, there absolutely are. Right? And you can definitely isolate markets to certain competitive dynamics that are different than the market at large. But if you isolate to the big 9, right, the big 10 publishers who make the vast majority of the revenue, I think a lot of the things that he says are accurate. I think that if I pick out Ubisoft, EA, Microsoft, places, I think there will be a contraction of the total number of titles that they put out of their portfolios for this year. Because you can see that there's kind of a retrenching going on in looking at, what products they're going to put out over the next, 2 or 3 years. And they're all facing, production cost adversity and all, jockeying against what their, profitability profiles are going to look like and all being a little more risk averse than they have been in the past. So I think part of that is accurate. I think what B says, though, is also accurate. We have the data that shows last year there were 14,000 games released on Steam. So I think if you look at the market writ large, you're not going to necessarily see a contraction overall. But I think a lot of those products, right, are going to cause the problem that we've talked about, which is that there's way too much inventory for the demand signal that the market is putting out. And you're getting a very small number of games that are actually earning revenue and therefore are actually profitable. So you're going to get a ton. Yes, you're going to get a ton more games released, and those games aren't going to make any money. But his overall thing of I think $70 is going to go away. I don't believe that that's the way it's going to go down. What I have personally said, and this is less of a prediction, but more of a hypothesis of the way I think it should go, and I'm not even going to say that it's absolutely correct, is I personally think that for AAA games, that they should raise the price and produce less of them. I think what will happen if the industry does that is I think there are a lot of people playing AAA games now who play AAA games because the price remains static, right, at $60 for, much longer than it normally historically has. And maybe they're still buying, games, quickly after they go on discount or whatever. But I think there's a lot more people in that market than maybe need to be. I think they should raise prices on AAA games. I think what that will do is that will take some people and that will price them out of that market. That will move them down market to where you don't have a big demand signal for AA games. I think the industry should then make more AA games at a more cost-efficient production cost profile, and then feed off of that increased demand that they get at that tier after they've raised the price of AAA games. And then I think that will then also create more room for indies to thrive. And then I think overall, there should just be a lessening of games. How you get to that, I don't know, because a huge part of the problem is with the way in which Steam publishing got democratized, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago, something like that. But a big part of the bubble problem started when Steam basically said, "Hey, we're no longer going to review each individual game. We're just going to open it up and let anybody publish a game to the Steam storefront as they see fit. And then if they publish something that's bad, we'll take care of it after the fact." That was the point where we started kind of seeing this explosive growth on the total number of games that get published. Back then, we were at like 8,000 games or so, maybe. So how you get to that, I don't know. You may just need to let that evolutionary extinction kind of happen over time. But that's just my general feeling. I don't believe $70 games are going to go away. I think, like I said, the price is only just going to increase.
Yeah, the argument he's making with the $70 games going away, in part is that they are going to companies are going to like cut back on budgets for AAA games, and he thinks that's going to help drive down the cost. But look, companies like money. Even if they make budgetary cuts and they can still sell $70 games are going to do it. You know, I just don't. I don't see that going.
Nobody's going to put that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this earlier the week, and you think you would probably agree with this, B, is that, you know, the market signal right now from consumers is like, hey, we will pay $70 for games. You just look at the NPD.
People will pay more than $70 for games. We're lucky that games only cost $7.
Hey, B, you're botting there.
Time and time again, we see people are willing to $120. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm saying time and time again, we can see that people are willing to $70 for games. They buy the extra edition or the ultimate edition or whatever edition is out for whatever particular game. So we're lucky that games are only $70 right now because they could be priced way higher, but just based on consumer spending.
Hey, B, you were botting out there at the end, man.
Hold on.
I think B was saying, Logic, that the last part I caught is that people are spending more on games now, or they will. There's
Yeah, what he was saying, and I think B's back now. But is that, look? What raising the price to $70 games showed is that there wasn't going to be there wasn't a significant decrease in demand signal for playing AAA games.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. B, are you back?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. I can hear you. Go ahead, man.
All right. I was just saying that when they raised the price to 70, it didn't stop people from buying games, and we see time and time again that people are willing to spend more for their games because the higher editions sell just as well, if not better, than the standard edition in a lot of cases. So people better be lucky that the games are currently only $70 because they could be priced way higher, and I don't think it would stop anything. That the people who are going to spend money on games will continue to do so.
I mean, Starfield charted NPD almost entirely on the back of early access and collector's editions.
Right.
That's right. It had the what was it, $100 for early access?
Yeah, it was something. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it was like 40 if you had Game Pass, but like a lot of people bought it on Steam, which I think was $100. I'm not sure on the PC pricing, like what it was for early access.
Yeah, it's some we talk about the early access. This is another game where some people are voicing displeasure with an early access. Star Wars Outlaws is going to have an early access. I think that's a 3-day. Yeah, it's 3 days of early access, and then you get some cosmetics. Looks like the price points for these editions are $110, $130.
But who's surprised by this?
I'm not. I mean, look,
we forget what company we're talking about.
We're talking about Ubisoft.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I'm not surprised.
They've been doing this for years now.
Yeah.
This is nothing new.
No, I'm not surprised at all. And I get people like who are upset like they don't get the act 3 days early. But look, I mean, again, if you want, look clearly this works. They wouldn't be doing it if it doesn't work. We always say this on the show. They wouldn't be doing it if the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. And someone just mentioned, I don't know if it was you, Logic or B, mentioned about you made mention of the early access for Starfield, which seemingly did well for Starfield. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if the early access stuff sells well for them.
So
yeah,
this will be super interesting, and I'll be interested to see if this also becomes the next major gaming community controversy. Purchasing the gold and ultimate editions of Star Wars Outlaws will grant owners up to 3-day early access to the game. You can see all the editions of Star Wars Outlaws here. Will it be available on Ubisoft Plus? Star Wars Outlaws will be available on Ubisoft Plus 3 days ahead of launch. So the reason I wonder, and I'll be interested to see if this becomes a next major controversy, is this is a lot of the dust that got kicked up about the Starfield early access in Game Pass. Is because if you are a Game Pass subscriber, you did not get 3 days early access. And this was my whole thing about, right, part of the problem with the marketing messaging is that Game Pass is day and date for some, but not day and date for everyone.
And that was part of the controversy around the early access with Starfield. People felt like, hey, if you're telling me day and date, then I shouldn't have to pay, $100 to get
extra
early access to a game.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so much the same way that I said, look, smart delivery is gonna shame everyone, right? Because now when you come out with a game and you require people to pay more money for entitlements, right, across platforms and versions, it's going to look shady when you say, oh, but look, here's Xbox doing smart delivery. I pay one price. I play it everywhere. What's up with that? I think when people pick up on this notion that people who subscribe to Ubisoft Plus, yes, it's not a platform subscription, so there is a delta there, but it is gonna cast a skewed eye on, hey, why do I get early access with Ubisoft Plus, but then when I'm on Game Pass, I don't get early access? It may not make a big deal, but it's interesting to see that delta on the market.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. And actually, I did subscribe to Ubisoft Plus, but I canceled that subscription, and I probably won't. I'm not going to pay the extra money for the 3 days early access for this game.
Now, when Ubisoft had a good production cadence, when like they were kind of guaranteed that they were putting out 4, 5, 6 AAA titles a year. I mean, that at least caused me to ask the question. I was just like, look, if I buy Ghost Recon, Assassin's Creed, and one other game like every year, then doesn't it make sense for me to just do the subscription? But they've just come off that cadence right over the last few years.
Yeah, no, they definitely have. That's why I don't subscribe to it anymore. But that leads us to the trailer, the new reveal trailer. And look, I'm probably going to buy this game. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Big fan. This game actually takes place between Star Wars Episode 5, which is The Empire Strikes Back, and Star Wars Episode 6, which is Return of the Jedi. And you play the character of K-Vess, which, look, people... Oh man. People are upset about her appearance versus the actual model who mocapped the protagonist. People, again, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, Logic, with Stellar Blade. People are upset with how the character looks. I said it on this show. I'm on that square. It's not something that's on my list of things that are important to me in video games. I don't, like I'm playing Stellar Blade, the demo. I'm not even, I mean, yeah, obviously, yeah, but that's not something in the forefront of my mind, where I'm like, oh yeah, she looks great in this game. That I'm more focused on, does this game play well? Good gameplay. Is it fun? Is it going to be something I enjoy? But people are really upset about how this character looks compared to the real person who mocapped the character model. So it doesn't bother me. I don't have any issue with it. It's not a thing for me. But
it's weird to me. I mean, and I definitely want to call right. There's a difference between people who there's a difference between the causality, right? I do think some of the people who want, characters of a certain aesthetic in games, there are legitimate reasons. I feel their reasons are legitimate and valid, because of just kind of things they deal with in life or the way they see the world. That is starkly different from what I will just call out as principally the males who I see fighting over this, in an effort to kind of assert their own dominance of perspective of the way it should be. When you see the topicality of this, it is 99% about female characters, right, in the representation in games. So I do think that there's a marked difference there between the way different genders kind of feel about the topic. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's what's the consideration of that as if I go down my list of 10 things ish, right, that dictate to me whether or not I'm interested in a game. Story, game mechanics, gameplay, graphical fidelity, performance, art, aesthetic, yada yada yada. This is just a strange one to seem to have crept its way into that list of 10 things that I don't think has been an issue before.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a topic that's really, I think, picked up some steam more recently. I almost feel like Stellar Blade kind of added fuel to the fire. It's a conversation's happened before. We've had this conversation. I remember there was a lot of hoopla over Aloy, which I thought was ridiculous, and now it seems like it's gained even more traction with Stellar Blade. But pull this article back up. Yeah, so you play the protagonist, Cave S. Kind of reminds me of a female version of Han Solo. And what did you guys think of the trailer? I thought it looked decent. Obviously, there's a lot of bias with me because I'm a big Star Wars fan. But what did you guys think? What they showed? No one watched the trailer.
No, I mean you know how I feel about trailers and games in pre-production.
I even said this to you earlier last year. I'm like, I know I'm going to ask you, and you're going to be like, I don't care. Just test your game, work on it. I forget what you say, but yeah,
develop your game, test your game, put your game up for sale. When I start hearing the buzz that there aren't any major bugs, the game is playable, then I'll consider whether or not it's worth my time getting down out of the chair.
Yeah, and I'm on the opposite side of the fence. I'm looking at the trailer like game of the year. No, I don't. That's a joke. I don't think it's going to be game of the year. B, did you watch the trailer?
I did.
Yeah. What were your thoughts?
Pretty good.
Okay.
I'm interested just because it's massive. So I'm interested, from that perspective. But the trailer looks good. I thought it looked a little better when they kind of like first showed it. When they kind of showed the character kind of creeping through, and like I forget what they were doing. I think she was trying to like steal something from like one of the guards. Like when they they showed it for the very first time. But all in all, I mean, it looks good. It comes out in August. We one of the few games that we know that's on the back end of the year. So, right now it's looking like a cop.
You brought up Massive Entertainment. That's actually what's piqued my interest for Star Wars Outlaws 2. Is that, for those who don't know, Massive Entertainment, which Slow-Mo was here, they're the studio behind The Division and last year's Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, which I did not play. But yeah, like as a Star Wars fan, I mean, seeing Han Solo there, Frozen, seeing Jabba the Hutt, it hit the Star Wars nostalgia feels for me. So this looks like this might be a game that I pick up. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, I mean, they do get a, you know, it is, the game does get a nod because it is Massive Entertainment. Which I mean, all due respect to Slow-Mo, but my history with Massive goes back much further. They were actually the ones behind the RTS's Ground Control and Ground Control 2, which were kind of two of the games that were principal to me, you know, finally accepting and finding the real-time strategy genre fun. I didn't really particularly grok it. They also did World in Conflict. They were actually part of Vivendi Games originally, and then Activision, and then were purchased by Ubisoft in 2008. So, and it's not just Vivendi, but it is also being done in the Snowdrop engine, which I think is one of the engines that's kind of proven itself over time with its implementation within the Ubisoft camp. So, I mean, it's definitely something that I'm keeping an eye on just because of the DNA of the pedigree of the developer it's coming out of.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like the game also has a reputation system, which and I'm reading the Game Informer article here. They had a hands-on demo with it, and they talked about the reputation system, but they didn't really get a chance to. They barely got a chance to kind of scratch the surface of the reputation system. So I'm interested in learning a little bit more about that, because you are kind of interacting with the different syndicates. You see some of the different syndicates. Actually, the trailer, they talked about the 4 or 5 different syndicates. I forget, the Hutt's one of them, and I forget the others. So there's that. But you know, again, it's set between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So I actually like these. I don't want to call them like offshoot Star Wars like films or shows or games. But I like the stuff that is, well, I guess it is kind of offshoot because it's not main story per se, but I actually like those. I forget what was the Star Wars movie that came out a couple years ago where they have to steal the plans for the Death Star? Why am I forgetting the name of it?
Rogue One.
What's that?
Rogue One.
Thank you, Logic. Rogue One. Yes, Rogue One. I thought Rogue One was a great movie. I loved it.
It's a great war movie.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it really is. And you know, you see Darth Vader in a different light, badass Darth Vader. And then there was and then you know some of the stuff they're doing on Disney right now. You know, with the Mandalorian, and I forget some of the other shows. They have another one coming out with that takes place like I think 100 years, is it, or 300 years before like the downfall of the Republic. I forget. There's some new animated or something coming out. No, this actually is an animated one.
Oh, really?
Now I gotta look this up now. Yeah.
I thought it was Tales of the Empire was the one that I've seen come across my windshield.
Yeah, let me look up the new Star Wars. Let's see here. It's the Acolyte.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
So
Isn't Carrie-Anne Moss is in that, right?
Carrie-Anne Moss is in that, yeah.
And then, of course, we're getting the Mandalorian Grogu movie. Is that next summer?
I think so. Let's see.
Yeah, I want to talk about a crazy moment in time, by the way, because I think the kids these days don't realize. Like, there used to be a time where, like, you would have television shows, and then they would, like, their season would end, and then they would, like, make a leap to the silver screen, or even just, like, a TV movie, and then, like, the next season would come back the next fall, and it would pick up from where the movie left off. That was just kind of a weird moment in time in Hollywood where things like that happened.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out when this takes place. When does this? I want to say it's like a couple hundred years before. Okay.
It's set at the end of the High Republic era, 100 years before Star Wars Episode 1.
Yeah, there it is. Yep, that's it. Yeah. So this is the high end. So this is the High Republic. So this is going to be interesting. Because I believe in the trailer. Oh, and actually Andor too. Speaking of, silver screen to show, Andor. was on Disney Plus 2 years ago, and that was actually pretty good too. And that was leading up to the events of what's it called? Oh shit! What is it? Rogue One.
Yep.
Yeah. The animated series that I enjoy too is The Bad Batch. I don't know if you guys ever watched that.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah. There's also Star Wars Skeleton Crew. That's supposed to be coming out in 2024 as well. So anyhow, but yeah, definitely looking forward to learning learning more about Star Wars Outlaws, and yeah, this might be a game that I pick up. Again, big Star Wars fan. You know, I'd like to get a good Star Wars game. I mean, with who knows what's going to happen on Knights of the Old Republic. Apparently, it's still under development, but we'll see what happens with that game. Want to grab the super chat from Warwana with a $2 super chat. It says, "Make all lead goblins for all I care. Gameplay is king." Thank you very much for that super chat. That's funny. Make all the lead goblins for all I care. I'm sure there's games out there that you can actually play as a goblin, but all right, I'm going to see if I. Oh, B, I meant to ask you, did you play the Stellar Blade demo?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, what were your thoughts, man? Is this going to be day one for you, or?
Yeah, I'm covering that thing day one, man.
Yeah,
it was really good. Take a look a little bit to get kind of used to the parry system, because it feels like the window is kind of like awkward.
Definitely
so
a smaller window. Yeah, the beginning. Yeah.
You kind of get used to it. But I upgraded in the demo to get like the bigger parry window.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I did that, then it felt a little better.
Yeah, it opens up.
Yeah. But I think it's gonna be pretty good. It's not gonna be like this amazing experience, but I think it's gonna be pretty solid.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, as a Souls fan, I was struggling with. I really tried not to compare it to Souls game, but it's kind of hard for me to do that. It reminded me more of Sekiro a little bit more, with the kind of the timing, the rhythm, and everything, and the timing of parrying. And but I enjoyed it. Probably going to be something I pick up as well. I just got to finish Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which I think is just an amazing game. By the way, thoroughly enjoying it. It is a great game. I think it's definitely better than Remake. So.
Yeah, I haven't even started yet.
Oh, it's
sitting in the queue, man.
It's really good. Like, I'm not a big fan of mini games, and I've been playing. They have this card game called Queen's Blood, and I just can't stop playing it. I'm just like, I think I spent like I'll spend like 30 minutes playing Queen's Blood.
Oh yeah, that's how it was with Gwent when Witcher 3 came out.
Yeah, let's see. Warwana's like, Queen's Blood's god tier. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I've heard great things about. I never played Gwent on in what's it called, The Witcher. I didn't play that. Yeah, but it's really good. I don't care for the what are the Moogles. I don't care for that mini game. That's not fun. Chocobo races aren't too bad. I was never a big fan of the Chocobo races, but these Chocobo races aren't too bad. No, where do I face the Shinra employee in Queen's Blood? Is that like I think I'm in chapter like 9 right now. Is that like in a later chapter, or is that like early on in the game? Because I have not played anyone who's a Shinra employee. In chapter 10. Is it? So we're one. I just, the last Queen's Blood game that I had was in Cosmo Canyon. So I forget what chapter Cosmo Canyon is. Oh, you can't say where it's okay. So I might not be there. I think I'm in chapter 9. So I've got another chapter.
Yeah, I want to give you gentlemen flowers for turning me on to a JRPG, even though that is not one of my preferred genres.
What are you playing?
I went back to Grand Blue Fantasy Relink.
Woo! And, good choice.
Having fun with that.
You like it?
I mean, I don't want to overblow it. It's very much in that kind of beat 'em up, line of design. It's a lot of like graphical eye candy, right? For kind of button mashing type of combat, and it's less tactical than I would give credit to, other games in the genre, but it does what it needs to do. It accepts itself for what it is. I don't think it tries to portray itself as, more than that. But yeah, I'm having a good time with it.
Yeah, that's another game I need to get back to. I started playing it. I picked it up on PC, and I really like it. You're right. It doesn't try to, I think what you said, Logic, it doesn't try to do more than, or present itself more than what it is. Is that?
Yeah, I don't disagree. There are games that you can kind of think of as kind of taking themselves a little too seriously, or kind of, where the marketing often paints it as more than the game is. I don't think the commentary around the game has been that. It's a game within a certain scope, but it leans into that, right? And for games that are kind of lean in that design direction, that again, not JRPGs, but from a combat perspective, like Bayonetta and Devil May Cry. Like the problem with those games is a lot of times like there's just so much stuff going on the screen that I can like not make any sense of what the hell's going on, particularly when you're fighting like really large enemies.
Devil
I'm just
May
like,
Cry
whatever.
Like that's a great example. Devil May Cry and Bayonetta are kind of like, it can be like overkill sometimes.
Yeah. So it was very interesting as I got into the combat, and it's kind of got a slightly weird kind of hitbox in terms of like when you're playing those larger characters, where in other games, like again, I would just have like a disconnect with where I was in comparison to the creature and what's going on. But I think the hitbox here is, it's hard for me to describe, but it took me a little while to get used to it, but eventually I got used to it and felt like it was a better implementation than a lot of other games that I've seen in like I said, of that combat ilk. And now I'm enjoying it. So yeah, and I like the way the characters are portrayed. It's again, it's kind of hard to get my words wrapped around, but they're definitely kind of archetypes, but there's a little more gravitas to them, kind of in terms of how they're scripted, at least for me. So it's been interesting. I'm going into chapter 4 now, so it's supposedly only like a 15-hour game if you mainline the campaign. So I nibble at games. Games like that I don't tend to like throw myself whole hog into, because I only get a couple of hours of gaming a night at best, and I don't like only playing one game for 2 weeks straight. So but yeah, I'm having a good time with it.
Yeah, you might want to try out Tales of Arise.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not going to say because I enjoy one JRPG, I'm ready to fall down the hill with the rest of them. But
hey, I'm just okay. Don't dip your toes in the pool. Just jump. Just dive right in, man. Yeah, no, but I mean, Tales of Arise might be another one that you might be interested in if you're enjoying Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. So, just a suggestion.
Yeah, but I just definitely want to call. I know you and B kind of talked me up on that. So, going back to like the big releases that have come out this year that people are not talking about, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Balatro, Tekken 8, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Unicorn Overlord, Persona 3 Reloaded, Dragon's Dogma 2, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I guess there was a new Baz Blue that came out. B, have you played that?
No, I haven't played the new one.
Yeah, there's just like you said, that more good releases already in Q1. Helldivers 2, Berserk Boy, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, like we talked about. There's an Ace Attorney collection that's out for people who like that stuff. The Star Wars Dark Forces remaster, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons got remade. WWE 2K24. This is actually because I'm a big racing fan. There's this new, like kind of voxel art Formula One game that's out called New Star GP that DBQ Hams on my show has been talking up, and that's one that I need to get to. There's also a new one coming out, SGSP. I forget what that stands for, but it's a game that's coming out in amazingly a quick search didn't find it. That's coming out in early access. That's another kind of Formula One-ish kind of game, as well as a new rally driving game out called Old School Rally. So it seems like a lot of games that are oriented around kind of this, simplified aesthetic coming out from indie developers. Art of Rally was one that came out a few years ago. Banisher's Ghost of New Eden was also put out this week that I don't think a lot of people have played. Stalker's Legends of the New Zone Trilogy has been out. MLB, Pacific Drive, Hitman Blood Money Reprisal, which is a collection that came out earlier on the Nintendo Switch. Yeah, so a lot of stuff out that, like you guys have said, not a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out. I mean, in Banishers of Ghost of New Eden is it's $50 on Steam. It's got a good user review right now on Steam. So
yeah, and even though Suicide Squad is not regarded by many as being,
by the way, that's a Dotenod game. So I think some pretty good pedigree there. Go ahead.
And even Suicide Squad, who most people kind of have laid back and consider to not be a good game, I mean, has pretty decent reviews on Steam. They're mixed as of recent, but overall they're still, I think, positive or very positive. Rise of the Ronin was one I didn't mention. There was a Mario versus Donkey Kong came out on the Switch.
Yep.
Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remastered, which I have. I would say that's not a particularly great collection, but it's nostalgic if you want to go back and play the Tomb Raider games.
Yeah, it's definitely nostalgic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a.
It's painful.
Yeah, not something I'd want to go back to and play.
Yeah.
It's
painful imagine. Being reminded, how we got all lathered up, but how like in hindsight, it's just not really great in terms of modern game design. But hey, that doesn't invalidate. There was Top Racer Collection that came out, which is again another one of these kind of retro racer games. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff out there, and that's like what B and what we talked about earlier. That's kind of the disappointing part. With some of the dialogue on social media, it's not anything really game focused per se.
It's almost there are no games out.
Yeah, exactly. It's like yeah, we got Rise of the Ronin that just came out. You have yeah, go ahead.
I mean, and it's an interesting dynamic. I'll even admit, I talked to you guys about it on this show, how, there was a time where I was like, look, for cred, you need to be putting up, game clips. Right. And I used to like religiously try to put up like a game clip like every other day or every day. And then I'll admit, I just got tired of it. Like, it's like you did that and showed that you were playing games, and you still get yokels who don't play games. Right. Just, yeah. It's almost as if the community and the commentary is dare I say, not even for real gamers anymore.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah, I don't disagree. I think you would agree with that sentiment, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If you just look back, not even 5 years ago, and try to have conversations on Twitter, like we used to have actual gaming conversations on Twitter. People be talking about games. That does not happen at all anymore. It's if someone posts a game, even just saying that they like it, if you tap the thread, all you see is negative comments about like why people hate the game or why people shouldn't be playing a game. It's like they're not talking about the game; they're just downing the person who's playing it. No constructive criticism about the game. No back and forth. No real conversation.
Nope.
It's all negativity. It's just ridiculous, man.
Yeah, and you're right. Like a couple years ago, and even, I mean, when I first got on gaming Twitter, like it was a different conversation. I mean, yeah, obviously there was console warring, that stuff was there, but there was really good dialogue around video games and the games we were playing, and not only that, you remember this, The developers would talk to us. They would actually have
Why would a developer talk to anybody now?
No. The crazy scared them away.
Yeah.
Developers like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't blame them.
Yeah, one of my mutuals made a great post the other day. She says, overrated gameplay, trash story. I'm sorry to hear that. How far did you get? I watched about 3 hours of cutscenes through the kitchen window when my neighbor was playing it.
They're not wrong, Logic. They are not wrong. They're not wrong. I mean, it's but it's part of it's the content creators too. The what I call the engagement merchants that just want to incite anger and capitalize on people who feel like they're, as crazy as this sounds, that their plastic box isn't getting a fair shake by the media or getting a fair shake in general. Like, that's just crazy to me. There's all these great games that are out right now. I mean, we just had Persona 3 Reload. It's another one that came out. There's a lot of stuff to play right now. A lot of great games. And everyone's more focused on what the future is going to look like. Oh, well, AAA games are sustainable. Oh, it's the handhelds of the future. Oh, Gen Z.
People went out and bought games and actually played them. Everybody's worried about the future, but we ain't taking care of right now.
Yeah, there's no future unless there's a today. What happened today is going to impact that future. But oh my God, Warwana saying Hillary, yeah, Hillary. There's this thing called the internet. I don't know what happened.
Oh damn! So
yeah,
yes, in this moment in time, I am completely hypocritical.
Okay.
For making the thing that we just talked about, and then be immediately swinging to, oh my God, here's Kat Bailey getting at Jeff Grubb. Because Kat, who is I forget where she's at. Is she at GameSpot, or
maybe I don't know what happened.
Or she's at IGN. So she says EA's statement was, "We don't normally comment on rumors, but there is no validity to this story." And again, this is going back to the comment that was made that the Dead Space 2 remake was in development. My own commentary on this earlier today was, if the game was in the concept phase and then was canceled, and EA is saying it was, there was no Dead Space 2 in development, I was like, both statements would be true, because in concept phase is not considered in development in industry jargon. But she says EA's statement was, "We don't normally comment on rumors, but there's no validity to this story." And she's quote tweeting Grubb at this point, which is weird to me because I've heard them on podcasts together. I thought they were all part of the group. "No validity is pretty firm. My own sources tell me a Dead Space 2 remake was never considered. I don't currently see a strong internal appetite to remake Dead Space 2. And she is quote tweeting in response to Grubb's statement, "I give you my permission to believe EA if you want, but whenever a company says that isn't true, but they don't specify which part of the story they are talking about, well, yeah, Dead Space 2 was definitely being planned. It had a code name, and they aren't making it now."
Huh. The plot thickens. Interesting. Yeah, and I'm seeing stuff. Yeah.
I mean, my whole thing today about this was a shrug and a nothing burger to me. I'm like BRAP, you and I have talked about, like, a very low percentage of games ever make it into actual development, and then and then only a percentage of them are ever profitable. Again, depending on what the research looks like, you can talk about 4%, 5%, 20%, whatever. But the point is, and I go from the industry statistics that we have for general software development and the teachings of Capers Jones and Barry Boehm. Right, the fact of the matter is that software development as an industry domain and discipline is fraught with a very low percentage of products that actually complete, right, and deliver code. Code that is sold at retail and actual viable products.
Yeah. I saw this earlier too. I just kind of shrugged. I was like, okay, it's not coming. But apparently it didn't. The remake that came out didn't sell well. It's actually a really good. It looks really good. I got it on PC. It looks really good. So again, I think it goes back to, is the juice worth the squeeze? Does it make sense for them to make a sequel? So, all right, gentlemen, that's all I have for topics this evening. Want to thank everyone in the live chat for hanging out with us this evening. Really appreciate the support as always. If you're new, consider subscribing. Hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. And please smash that like button. It helps out the channel, helps put eyes on the channel, and the support always means a lot. So thank you again. And I want to thank the panel here, B Money, Game Logic. B, I know I ask you every week where people can find you. I'll leave it up to you, sir, if you want to be found. But it's pretty easy to find you.
Do you guys remember, did Dead Space chart MPD when it came out?
I think it did. I'd have to go back and look. But apparently it didn't sell well.
I wonder what they classify as not selling well.
Nah, who knows?
Because didn't Callisto Protocol do like 5 million?
I don't know what Callisto Protocol did.
Yeah, well, Callisto Protocol charted. Yeah, it charted, but at the end of the day, it didn't sell well. And that studio closed down.
They closed down.
Yeah. No, they didn't close down. They
closed down. No.
No, they laid off like most of their staff, but they're working on Callisto Protocol 2, and they're doing that roguelike game, which is like the in between sequel of like the middle game in between Callisto Protocol and the sequel to Callisto Protocol.
Huh. Okay. I thought I guess they didn't shut down. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're still alive and kicking. They actually just showed that. I think it's like almost like a top down, like isometric view roguelike game. That's in that same universe as Callisto Protocol.
Okay.
So yeah, but Schofield did leave the studio.
Yeah, he left for sure.
Oh, he did? Okay. Yeah, because that's Striking Distance Studios, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they're still in business, right? There we I just found them right now. Okay.
No, they just I apologize. They just laid off several employees, and then Schofield left as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So B, if you want to be found, let everyone know they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere. Same name, B-Money101. It's a great conversation night, guys.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
Might get back on Battlefield, B. Thank you. And then Game Logic, if you want to be found, let everyone know they can find you as well.
Yeah, you can find me on the Enough to Keep Going Weekly Games podcast on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube, 8:45 p.m.-ish, Sunday nights, EDT. So yeah, Dead Space, looks like Dead Space charted in its debut at number 2 on MPD.
Okay.
All right. But then it may have not sold well. At least what I read, it didn't sell well, but.
Yeah, which is often the case. We often get, this is why I always comment about the cautionary tale, right? You get games that chart, but then games that overall don't sell well.
Yeah. All right. I see some people live chat saying they're off to watch the Fallout TV series, which I'm looking forward to watching the Fallout TV series on Amazon Prime. I'm gonna check that out probably tomorrow. So, and if you want to follow me on X or Twitter, whatever it's called these days, it's BRAP_podcast. And you can catch me here every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. And may do a BRAP rant on Friday, maybe, depending if my schedule allows it. But other than that, thank you, everyone. Appreciate the support as always. Remember, hit that like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. We will catch you next time. Thank you.